Okay, let's pretend it's the late 70s or early 80s and you're at your grandpa's house and he slaps a carousel of photos into the slide projector and narrates each and every photo. That's what's going to happen for the next 20 minutes or so. You look at the pretty nature photos while I prattle on about them. Save your questions for the end, please. Let's begin. Here I sit in my car at the ferry terminal in Tsawwassen. I booked in advance but got there early. It's a nice day. It's about an hour-and-a-half sail over to Schwartz Bay on Vancouver Island, and it ain't cheap.
Located on deck 5 Adams Bay. Airplane loading and evacuation system located on deck 5. The crew members may ask you to put on a life jacket. Here's how to do it. Press the red button on the bottom buckle and the 2 small black buttons on the top buckle to open.
I have 2 nieces, and one of them doesn't spell their name this way. This is the route I'm taking out onto the island and then down south around Victoria and then onto Sooke. There's a nice bay here called Sooke Harbor that I'll be exploring around, and I'm going to start on Whiffin Spit, which is this weird horizontal squiggle out in the water in the middle there. Here, I'll zoom in. It starts at Sooke Harbor House, but we'll come back to that later. It's windy, but a nice day to go for a walk on this weird peninsula. Someone built this really cool hut of driftwood. Only $450 a night to stay in it. This is a lighthouse. Technology can really make things lame. There is a lot of driftwood around here. This is the view from the opposite shore looking down onto Whiffin Spit. The spit was named in 1846 for John George Whiffin, who was a clerk on the HMS Herald that was surveying the harbor inlet during a fight over land with the United States. 5440 or fight. Back to the spit. Nice photo. I love symmetry. Okay, time for lunch at Sooke Harbor House, where my Uncle Rick and Aunt Tammy got married over 20 years ago. It was buck and oyster. I only had 2 dozen. I stayed in this cute and rustic little cabin at the Sooke campground, which was right in the middle of town on the river. I said it was rustic. No running water, but it had power. Next is Roche Cove, which is tucked away in the far east end of Sooke Harbor. I'm going on a nice hike along the cove. Amazing views and very exclusive real estate. This is the reason for my trip, to see the trees of the rainforest before it's logged or burnt down. It's a lot different than our cedars at home. I found a trail down to the waterline at the far end of the cove. It's a great view west backwards towards the bridge. The ground all around me was covered in the shells of tiny mollusks. I think they were mollusks. There was a mollusk and a sea cucumber, and he walks up to the sea cucumber and says, well, normally they don't talk, mollusks, but in a joke, everyone talks. Speaking of simple organisms, here's a view of the United States of America from a hill I climbed. Lots of rock. Okay, it had to happen once in this video, and here it is. Prepare yourself. Yep, it's Sasquatch, and he's made out of bark. They did a pretty good job, actually. And now it's time for lunch back at camp. Pot noodle and fake beer. No booze for me on this trip. Too much driving and hiking. Even the beer with the oysters was fake. Thanks to Rick for the plate. Next up is Betcher Bay, down on the bottom right there. I'm hiking Crecky Point Trail. The air smelled of fresh oysters. I really should go back for lunch again. These wacky trees are arbutus. Okay, time for the big hike at Sooke Potholes Regional Park. This is a long hike. It follows along this nice river. You get great views as you hike along top this gorge. This is the true rainforest experience I was looking for. About halfway along the trail, I ended up going up to the top of this ridge and getting some serious altitude, a lot of rock and dead trees, so I took the drone up for a look. Now look, here's the deal. I paid good money for that drone, and I'm going to use it whenever I can, and I happen to enjoy the footage, so we're just going to sit here and watch it. Shush. Isn't it majestic? Look, you can see the drone's shadow. If you get dizzy, just look away for a second. You can start to see the potholes in the rocks caused by the river. Rocks, water, trees, what more could I ask for? And I really had the place to myself. Okay, one more drone flight, but this one is really fun, trust me. It's exciting. Look, there's me flying it. I really have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm just constantly terrified I'm going to fly it into the rocks and water and trash my expensive toy. I'm certain the footage is shaking because my hands are shaking on the controls. There's me again, waving in fear. Okay, here's the fun part, but scary for me. It's like a PBS documentary, isn't it? It would be better with music, maybe? I'm getting amazing light. Almost magic hour, a little late in the morning, but close. Time for a spinny aroundy shot. That's a filmmaking technical term. Okay, now I'm getting dizzy. The water is so clean and clear. See the potholes in the rocks? At this point, the controller is beeping at me frantically that the battery is dying and I need to land it now. I'm panicking, in fear. Any landing you walk away from is a good one. This is Ella Beach on the west side of Sooke. And okay, I'm going to warn you right now, there's going to be more drone footage. It's an amazing private beach with a bunch of houses behind me that I'm just going to try to ignore. That's me squinting into the sunlight. Have you noticed that the rocks are all sorted by size up the beach, Adam? Have you noticed that all the rocks are sorted by size up the beach automatically by the waves? And the rocks make this cool extra wave sound as the water trickles back. Listen carefully. Okay, the last drone trip, I promise. Look at all the keep out signs the houses have all over. And big yards of great trees. There's me again. Okay, time for pod racing on the beach and over the water. This was fun. Again, I had the place to myself. I made 2 separate trips to this beach. I loved it. Lots of driftwood around here. And the water is amazing. There's the States again. Love those rocks. Hey, there's the drone shadow. Okay, enough of all that. Time to land. Time for the ferry ride home and a final story to wrap things up. Over 30 years ago, I went sailing on this boat and won the Big Sydney Regatta. At the end of the weekend, the captain and I sailed back to Vancouver on Monday morning. Right along this water on a morning just like this. There's another BC ferry there. Keep that in mind. It looks small from here, but they're huge boats. We have to sneak through all these little islands to get away from Vancouver Island, and that last passage is commonly called Active Pass. And boy, it's active. Everyone comes through here. See all those lines? Those are boat lanes. Let me show you a better map. So me and my captain in this tiny sailboat need to sneak through here. He's being weird and tense, and I don't know why. See this? This is the wake of the ferry. It churns the water up like crazy, and you can see there isn't much room on either side of the pass. We would have been at about this point in the pass in our tiny little boat when a ferry came up behind us blowing its horn. A BC ferry is a big boat, and they can't exactly stop on a dime or turn quickly, and they are bearing down on us fast. On the radio, there's a lot of screaming as the ferry attempts to slow and not swamp and sink us. See that little boat? That would have been us, but without a motor to get us the hell out of there, as we just had a sail. The prop wash from the ferry is really starting to churn up the water in the little active pass, and our boat is bobbing up and down like a cork. Then things get doubly worse. Another ferry appears coming towards us. Now we are trapped between the two of them, just like this. When these two pass, it really makes the water in the pass go wild. This is not the place for a little sailboat. Look at how big that boat is. Okay, then things got much worse for us as a Japanese destroyer decided to slip in between all three of us. My captain kept screaming, "White water, white death!" And then suddenly it was all over and we passed the pass and we were okay. This girl was knitting. How calming. Thanks for watching.